Interesting. With that, we bring in retired FBI Supervisory Special Agent Darren Mott, who spent 20 years in the Bureau, is now director at the National Cybersecurity Operations Center, and Bob Krygier, recently retired from the Pima County Sheriff's Department after nearly 30 years, most recently serving as SWAT Lieutenant Commander. So great to have both of you, obviously, with us today. Bob, let me just start with you as former SWAT commander, excuse me. When you watch those SWAT teams roll out yesterday, and we know that that individual was ultimately released, what went through your mind, and what do you think the posture is of the SWAT teams at this point?
Well, the first thing that went through my mind is that everyone's just doing their due diligence, making sure you've got the resources where they need to be, and making sure that if it would have been a more likely suspect, that the SWAT team would have been able to do what they needed to do. That being said, I'm sure they performed as they should have yesterday, did what they needed to do to make the scene safe for everyone. And I'm sure that they're still ready to go right now in a moment's notice. Just like
I would imagine they are in a very ready posture at this point as we get more and more tips as a result of this look at this individual's face today, because you know that there are people or persons out there who are thinking, I think I recognize that person. And that's what they are going off of right now. This is a soundbite from Jamie Siminoff, who is the founder of the Ring camera, on how videos are backed up, even if the camera's destroyed, or even in this case, as we've learned that there was no subscription on it to download that video for the user. Let's watch this.
What I will say is that part of the importance of how we've built the cameras at Ring and cameras like what you're seeing here is that they do broadcast to a cloud backup. And so, what you are seeing is that, even with the destruction of the camera, they were able to then, recover footage.
Yeah, I mean, this has been such an interesting part of this story, Darren, because I would have thought that if you, didn't pay for the subscription, that it's just the images are flowing through it, but they're not necessarily landing anywhere. Your thoughts on what he had to say?
Well, I think that's absolutely right. Even with no subscription, it's still going to give you thumbnails on certain bits of information that come to your door. And it may be overwritten fairly quickly because you don't have the subscription. If you have the subscription, you get more minutes or whatever. So when he came up, he was the last image shown, and that particular image went to the cloud and probably sent a thumbnail to the phone. And so they're able to capture that from there. Now, if he pulled it off and didn't break it right away and carried it with him, there may be other videos there that were collected while he was walking around, which may have sound with it too. We haven't talked about that.
Yeah, that's the big question here, Bob. When you look at that, we don't know what he did with it. We don't know if he just threw it on the ground in front of the door when he went inside, and we also don't know how he got inside, which is a big question that I have. Do you believe that the FBI has more video, more information than they have released at this point?
It would be speculation, but I would think so. If they were able to recover the videos and the photographs like they did, I imagine there's some more out there, and hopefully something that's has more distinguishing features, something that allows someone, like someone said, somebody knows who this is. And the more information that they can push out to the public, that's going to really be the break that the investigators need to solve this.
So the other technology that is a huge tool here is AI. And here's the former White House Chief Information Officer, who you saw moments ago, Teresa Payton, on how AI will help to put this person's facial features together. Watch this.
They can start using AI to match up the eyes. So we have the eyes, the eyebrows, that you could use AI to ask questions about what are the probabilities that these faces actually could be a good match. What are the probabilities that this person is wearing layers of clothing and they're not this bulky? What are the probabilities that they're taller than they seem to be, and what do they weigh?
Darren, your reaction to that?
Sure, I think that's right. I think data analytics and the way that AI and machine learning can take these things and process them very quickly will give us information and answers a lot quicker than we used to have in the past. So I think the distance between the eyes, the distance to the mouth, will give them some information on how the face generally looks. Some contours of the ski mask may allow them to do some contouring. I mean, it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to get them closer than they were without it.
Would you expect, Bob, that we would be at some point seeing an image, We remember seeing the drawings that were compiled by people who saw a suspect, and they put together a composition of the face. With all this technology, would you expect we're going to see a face soon?
I would expect something's going to come out. How accurate it's going to be, that's to be determined. But I would assume that through all the investigative tools that they have, there's something that's going to be pushed out relatively quick.
All right, guys, thank you very much. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Darren. Good to have you both here.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.